Hi guys, it's your lawyer, Sasha, and many of you guys asked me the same questions about the I-751 second green card process. That's when we're taking our 2-year conditional resident cards based on marriage and converting them to a permanent 10-year green card. So I wanted to go over some of those frequently asked questions. I do have them in a written format, but nowadays, a lot of people don't want to read, so here's your video format for your frequently asked questions. So the first question we get a lot is, will I get a new green card when I submit my I-751 case? So as you know, you have your 2-year green card, which has an expiration date, 2 years from the date of approval. And we have a 90-day window to submit our second green card case, our I-751 form with all of our marital evidence. So let's just give an example. If my green card is expiring on June 30th, 2023, then I have from March 30th, 2023 to that expiration date of June 30th, 2023 to file my I-751 case. If I try to file my case after that date, I will have to request to be excused from a late filing with a written reason about why I filed late. So guys, don't do that. File on time. Please file during the 90-day window. Okay. So now my green card has expired. Let's use our June 30th, 2023 deadline, right? Now let's say I filed my green card, my 751 case for my second green card, and now my card that I have in my possession is going to expire, right? So what happens when that green card expires? You're not going to get a new card. So let me just put that there. You're not going to get a new card until the case is approved, right? The I-751 case has to be approved for the new 10-year green card to be issued. So what happens in the interim while you're waiting, while that case is pending? Well, what happens is you're going to get a special receipt notice, right? And this is, let's use our June 30th deadline. So let's say my green card expired on June 30th, 2023. Here is my receipt for my petition to remove conditions for my residence, my I-751 form. And you can see here, this one was received on June 16th, 2023. And this is my version of the notice that was sent to my office, and I've obviously taken out the client's info here. But the client always received a green version of this, a green version that has that Statute of Liberty embossed in it, and that's the official notice, right? So you guys get the official notice at home. We get this white paper copy in the office, right? And that's important to know when we talk about traveling in our next question, how do I travel once my green card's expired, right? So here you will see, let me just make it even a little bit bigger for you guys, and what this says. This says, we've received your petition, your I-751 case. We've extended the validity on your permanent resident card for 48 months from the date of the expiration. So going off of our expiration date of June 30th, 2023, this individual's green card would be extended for 4 years until June 30th of 2027. And like it says here, during the extension, you're authorized to work and to travel. This notice, along with your expired green card, is evidence of your status and employment authorization, right? So we get our, what we call our I-751 extension notice, and that is what allows us to continue to show that we are residents. That is, you're able to use that extension notice for I-9 purposes, for getting a new job. And our next question, how do we travel when our second green card case is pending? So always when your second green card is pending, you're going to be traveling with 3 documents. Obviously, a valid passport, that's always needed, right, from your home country. Your expired green card, they do want you to physically bring the expired green card. And that version of the green notice, the I-751 extension notice that you get in your house, that is the green version. Now, sometimes clients come to us and they'll have lost their green version of the notice, or sometimes, for whatever reason, we end up getting the green version of the notice and the client gets the white copy at home. It's really important to note that many airlines will not let you board with the green copy, with the white copy of the notice. You have to have that original green copy normally to board the airline. So traveling is pretty normal when you are a conditional resident. You're just going to be traveling with those documents. I do always tell my residents that upon arrival in the airport, they do have to verify the green card status in the computer system. So they'll take that receipt notice and the receipt number, and they will verify that the case remains pending. So it can take a few extra minutes to pass through CBP because they're going to verify your status in the computer system. But other than verifying status, there's no issue with traveling in and out of the US while this second green card is pending. Now, the next question we get is, how long is this going to take? Well, you're not going to love that answer. It's really long, okay? Let's look at it ourselves, right? Now, the bottom, actually, let's just put that receipt notice back on the screen. So the bottom of our receipt notice, going back to our receipt, will always tell us which service center, see right here where my mouse is, which service center, is our case is processing in, right? So there, before I accidentally redacted it, it said the Potomac Service Center is where that case is pending. So now I'm going to put up the USCIS processing times, and we're going to take a look at them. And just for point of reference, I'm recording this video right now on July 10th, 2023, right? These are the processing times as of July of 2023. So that person's case was in the Potomac Service Center. So we'll take a look there first. And oh, lovely, isn't the USCIS website awesome? They're so good at their jobs. Let's see if any of the other ones are working. Okay, guys, so this is a failure. Oh, here we go. Perfect. I love it. Okay. Oh my God. Sometimes their website is horrible. Okay. So California, we have 17 months right here. That's actually pretty fast, guys, all things considered. Nebraska, 20 months. Potomac, where that case was pending, is 29 months. And I won't lie, most of our cases are pending in the Potomac Service Center. They actually only did them in 2 service centers up until recently. And so they added, like California was not doing them before. So they seem to be shifting them around because Texas and Potomac were doing them before. And as you can see, Texas at 28.5 months, Potomac was at 29 months. And so they're so overwhelmed with these cases, Vermont's at 28.5 months, that they've been shifting them now into other service centers. So if you get lucky, you'll get California at 17 months. If you get unlucky, you could be in one of these 3 service centers that takes 28.5 months. If you get somewhat lucky, you get Nebraska with the 20 months. But the point is, it's a long time, okay, guys? I-751 cases take a long time to process. Like I said, most of our clients are finding themselves in Potomac, and they're at a 28.5-month processing time, well over the 2-year mark. In fact, I-751 extension letters used to only be issued for 24 months, and about a year ago, they started issuing them for 48 months because people's extension letters were expiring. I frequently asked question I used to get was, now that my extension letter is expiring, how can I get proof of my residency? And that's done in the local office by booking what is called an InfoPass appointment to go down and bring your passport, and they put a 1-year resident stamp in your passport. Now, with the 48-month extension, we're not really seeing anybody needing InfoPass appointments for extensions, but just because it does come up, some of the cases are wild and take a really long time. And if it does go beyond that 48-month mark, then you will have to get an InfoPass appointment to get a stamp in your passport. Now, what happens when you finally do get to the front of that very long line? Well, I always tell everyone, I-751 cases all have their own trajectories. It's not like green card processing in the sense where you kind of know exactly what's going to happen the first green card I'm talking about. With the second green card case, many things can happen. They can either just look at all the evidence and say, this is great, we believe it's a totally real couple, and mail a new green card. If they want more evidence, they can send a request for evidence letter and ask you to mail in more evidence. If there is if they're really suspicious of something or they want just more information, they can send it to the local field office for an interview. In those cases, I didn't drop down to the all field offices, but it was 34.5 months. So if they send it for an interview at a local office, it can often take up to 3 years to process an I-751 case. Now, statistically, most cases are not sent for interviews. It's very rare. Although we've recently had so many clients who had interview waivers on their first green card cases, meaning they never had an interview on the first green card case. And there has been some rumors from USCIS that people who did not have an initial green card interview may be more subject to having an interview on their second green card. So some of you who may have dodged a bullet on the first green card processing may get called in for an interview on the second processing. Now, you just gotta be patient. I'm gonna put it back here on the screen for 1 second, but when you are in the processing, if processing time is, if you're within the processing times, I should say, right? So I said old field offices were 34.5 months. So let's go back and let's look at Potomac, where most of our cases are pending, right? So Potomac's 29 months. And right now I told you I'm in July of 2023. So let's say that 30 months ago, I'm really bad at this. Let's say January 1st of 2021, right? So I'm like, okay, it's been more than 29 months, right? Okay, it's been 30 months, right, since January of 2021. It's actually still going to tell you the case is processing normally, that the earliest we can submit questions is August 10th, 2023. So this person's getting close to being able to submit questions. And it actually says right here, do not contact us before this date, right? And so it says 80% of cases are completed within 29 months. There are some that do take longer that are still considered completely normal. So this one is at like 31 months based on it being July 10th, 2023 right now. And it's still processing normally, okay? So like it says, we really can't do anything about it. If it's processing normally, it's processing normally. You just have to be patient, okay? Now, another question we get a lot is, my I-751 case is still pending, and I want to apply for my citizenship, right? Obviously, those of you who are still married to your U.S. citizen spouses, you can file for your U.S. citizenship 3 years after being a resident, and those first 2 years of conditional residency count. So most people find themselves being eligible to file for U.S. citizenship, and in fact, you can do it 90 days before you're hitting the 3-year mark. So going back on our June 30th, 2023 expiration date, my fictitious client would be eligible for naturalization anywhere after March 30th of 2024, right? Because they can do it 90 days before they're going to be 3 years as a resident. And so a lot of people want to file right away. They don't want to wait. You know, I have, for example, clients from Venezuela who can't get passports from Venezuela. So they're trapped, even though they have green cards. They can't go anywhere because they don't have a valid passport to travel on. So they really want to become citizens right away. Or some people have, you know, parents in their home country that they want to petition for. You know, there's a million reasons why people want to become citizens. Some people just want it for the safety of knowing you can't obviously get deported. They can't touch you anymore in this country, which I think is alone a great reason to become a U.S. citizen. So the answer to that question is no, you do not have to wait for this case to be decided to file for your citizenship. And we've actually been encouraging people to file for citizenship to get out of these long processing times, because citizenship is often going through very fast in the local field offices. Many of the citizenship cases go through in 2 to 3 months, right? Now, what happens is when somebody has an I-751 case pending and they apply for naturalization, it will automatically become a joint interview, right? So what happens is when they get scheduled for the citizenship case and the I-751 case still hasn't been decided, they will normally send 2 interview notices, one for the I-751, one for the citizenship case, because they still have to approve the I-751 case first in order to make a decision on the citizenship. And so what happens is both spouses have to go to the interview. So you have to go with your spouse. And they do like 5 minutes, maybe, sometimes 10 minutes, sometimes 0 minutes, just about the I-751 case. Most of the time when I go to these, they're like, okay, I see you got a lot of great evidence, gonna approve the I-751 case, let's move on to the citizenship case, right? So it's very informal, but they just procedurally, they have to call both people in, they have to make a decision first on the 751 case, and then once that approval is in the computer system, they can move on to the citizenship case, right? And so it's very simple. We do them all the time. Clients go all the time. They just have to bring their spouse, bring updated evidence of their marriage. And then, like I said, they'll do the 751 case first for the first few minutes of the interview, and then switch over to the citizenship case. Sometimes we'll allow the spouse to continue to be in the office during the citizenship process. Sometimes we'll ask them to go back out to the waiting room because they don't need them anymore for the citizenship part, right? But there's no reason to wait on doing your U.S. citizenship if that case is pending. And frankly, if in one of those service centers with the long processing times, it's the best way to get out of that long processing time, right? And when you do that route, you'll never get a 10-year green card. They actually send an approval notice on the I-751 that says they're not mailing a new green card because they know you're already in line for an oath ceremony on the citizenship and the green card will be moot. And they don't even send a 10-year card. So a lot of people never get 10-year cards. They go right from a 2-year conditional card to getting a certificate of citizenship, but that's wonderful. So why not, right? Now, this last part, if your marriage is happy, you don't need to watch it, right? This is for people who may be divorced, maybe thinking about divorce, and their second green card cases. So there's two scenarios. One, where obviously my second green card has not expired yet. I mean, my first green card has not expired yet. I have my 2-year green card and my marriage is not going well, right? So I get this question a lot. What should I do? And so what I tell my clients is you should do what makes you happy, right? If you're not happy in your relationship, you shouldn't stay in it. And we have something called a divorce waiver that we can do with an I-751 case, right? And that's a waiver that just says, I entered my marriage in good faith, but it ended in divorce, right? So people can do divorce waivers at any time, but procedurally, you want to get divorced before that 2-year card expires, right? So you can file separately with a divorce waiver from the beginning of the case. Some people find themselves in a limbo because they separate from their spouses and the spouse won't do a joint filing with them on the I-751, like both spouses have to sign the application for a joint filing, and their spouse has moved out, they're not going to sign, but they also haven't gotten divorced yet. If that's the scenario, you are in limbo because you cannot file on your own because you need to be actually divorced to do the divorce waiver, and you can't file jointly because your spouse is not going to sign the petition. So we always tell them, if you're contemplating divorce, get it done so you can file on your own as a divorced spouse with the divorce waiver. Now, the other scenario we see a lot is obviously people file jointly with their spouses. Everything's good in their marriage at the time they file, but 6 months, a year after they file, they're in these long lines of 28 months for the second green card, and they start having serious relationship problems. Well, the same thing applies. You can get divorced, and we have a process that we go through that we convert the existing I-751 case into a divorce waiver case, and we send them a request to convert it. We send them a copy of the divorce petition. We send them new evidence, and they change it in their system from a joint filing to a divorce petition. So never get afraid to divorce. I mean, if your relationship is bad, I always tell people, faking it with immigration, trying to pretend like everything is good, that you still live together, everything is good, when it's not, it's the worst thing you can do, right? They can site check on a 751 case, and this happened to a client of mine. I did her first green card, but she didn't hire me to do the second case. And one day she called the office in a panic because immigration had come to her house and her wife had already separated. And they were like, where's your wife? And they weren't there. And then she refused to let them in. And so then they scheduled for an interview, right? And she was like, should I bring my wife? Should we just say that she was sleeping at her mom's house that day? Blah, blah. And I was like, no, you can't lie to them. This is crazy. We already came to your house and saw that she wasn't there. You can't compound the lie. And I told her, you got to file for divorce right away and come clean. And luckily, her wife came to the interview with us and we explained, we're like, they've been separated for a few months now, but this was already a year after the case was pending. We said, at the time they filed, everything was good in their relationship, no problems. And here's the copy of the divorce petition. They're in the process of getting divorced. We want to convert to a divorce waiver when the divorce is finalized. And they sent a request for evidence letter saying, send us the divorce decree when it's finalized and a request to convert. And we did that. And then they approved it as a divorce waiver, right? But she almost had such a huge problem because she was her initial instinct when she came to me was to pretend and to lie and say that the wife just wasn't there at that time. And I'm like, you can't do that. They're going to think you were lying from the very beginning, right? And it's the last thing that you want. Because I would say, once you're a liar with immigration, you're always a liar with immigration. So you just need to be honest with them. If relationships deteriorate, there's long processing times for all of these cases. And 50% of marriages end in divorce. So it's not uncommon for people to have marital problems while in this long processing time, right? So guys, those are our frequently asked questions. If you guys have more questions, please shoot me an email, let me know. But that really covers most of what you need to know about the I-751 second green card process. Oh, one last thing I wanted to talk about was evidence, right? So the evidence is really focused on the 2 years that you've had your conditional residency, right? They don't really want evidence that predates the green card. They want lots of evidence from the 2-year period that you've had your conditional residency. And a lot of people underestimate how much evidence they want. Our I-751 cases are usually like 300 to 500 pages of documents. They want all of the bank statements, all the joint finances, joint insurances, joint leases or property titles, mortgages, you know, all these photographs together, trips together, your dog together. They want everything. They want to see. A lot of people do marriage fraud and are good at pretending so that they can get the first green card, but they don't keep it up during the 2-year conditional residency. So a lot of people are caught in marriage fraud actually on the second green card processing. And the second green card processing comes from a 1996 law for the Marriage Fraud Amendment. So this all has to do with marriage fraud, right? Like the whole point of the 751 processing is to give immigration a second chance at finding marriage fraud, right? And so that's the whole point of the case, right? Is for them to have a second chance to find marriage fraud. So like I said, you want to send them a ton of evidence, really good high quality evidence. If your evidence is not looking that good, then we send it in, and while it's pending, you can be working on building accounts, building joint evidence together in case of a request for evidence letter or an interview, right? But we have like almost 100% success rate on both divorce waivers and joint filing. So, you know, we're usually pretty good at getting the clients to get enough evidence to have their case approved. But don't underestimate the 751 process. It does require a lot of evidence to get an approval. They obviously recognize some people, you know, at the time they're starting their first green card processes, don't have things like social security numbers, maybe don't have a driver's license. And of course, now that you have your green card, they know you can travel, you can work, you have a driver's license, you have a social. There's really no impediments to joining documents with your spouse. So they want even more evidence that second time around. All right, guys, so that concludes what you need to know about the I-751 process. Thanks for tuning in. And like I said, hit me up with any additional questions.